You're watching DCA Replay, a production by the Georgia Department of Community Affairs, where our communications team sits down with industry professionals and area experts to discuss programs of interest. I'm your host, Marquise Chester. Today, we'll be looking through the lens of local leadership to take a closer look at the Georgia Broadband Deployment Initiative, a state-level interagency effort to close the connectivity gap by helping communities, especially those in rural Georgia, bring high-speed internet to their residents and businesses. I am joined today by Steve Ledbetter, Mayor of Woodbury, Georgia, Adam Kennedy, Executive Director at Economic Development Authority of Claxton and Evans County, and Amy Stone, Director of Economic Development at Oglethorpe County, all of whom have recently helped their communities make great strides in the way of bringing broadband to the people they serve. Starting with Amy, Oglethorpe County was the first community to receive Broadband Ready designation. What does it mean to you and your team to hold that recognition?
Thank you. Thanks for having me. We're really grateful to have it. I think that it signified to state leadership and providers that we're in the game and that we're ready to go. We had started working on our internet connectivity problems kind of formally in 2018. We have a community that's about 50% unserved or underserved. So we had been having the conversations, but I think the broadband ready designation and the fact that it brought in the broadband element to the comprehensive plan as well as an ordinance adoption, it forced a conversation with our local leadership that was really helpful to kind of kickstart it. We were all on the same page as to we're going for this designation. So that allowed us to just continue that conversation, and it went into us coming up with a pilot project and doing some of our work internally. But I think that having that conversation around a common goal of broadband ready was really great to get local leadership engaged and involved. And so then now we have that broadband element in our comprehensive plan. We're looking towards 20 years down the road, and then we have that streamlined permitting process within our kind of day-to-day staff level. So the discussion of broadband is kind of at different levels in our community now.
So could you tell us why this is such an important mission for your team and what makes it so pertinent to the people in your community specifically?
Well, I mean, being unserved and underserved at that level is certainly something that's affecting residents and businesses. So super important to our constituents, of course. But I think the importance was really in leveraging the momentum. So the discussion of this broadband ready designation led to the momentum of doing our own projects and also signaling to providers that we were doing something locally so that we would be an easier partner to work with. And that has come to pass for us, certainly.
Thank you so much, Amy. Moving on to Steve, Woodbury was the first city in Georgia to be recognized as broadband ready. What did it take to make this achievement?
Thanks, Marquise. I appreciate the opportunity to be a part of the panel. This was a mountain for a small city of only 1,203 people. But we achieved it through some very distinct ways of going about our business. First, we engaged a group of community leaders who defined and documented and then went out and marketed our problem with our community that we faced with respect to gaining access to high-speed internet. We went out and did just what Amy just described. We made sure that our comprehensive plan was well-versed in how we wanted to move forward. And then we went that step further with our community work program, and we really defined out what that project plan was going to look like to overcome technical challenges that we faced. And then finally, we worked through developing a public-private partnership in support of our plan. We did just what Amy and her team there in Athens were doing with respect to partnering with other businesses or other communities in order to overcome the technical challenge that we faced. The designation as a broadband community really continues for us to be important because it helps us legitimize the need for broadband network projects within our local community. We were seeing a lot of challenges both in our industry and within our businesses, and then as the virus hit last year, it really took hold for our education, and our kids were suffering because they didn't have access to high-speed internet, and it created some challenges for us, but we're working through those.
And what are some of the ways your community plans to manifest the goal of bringing greater access to high-speed internet to your constituents?
Well, one of the things that we did to achieve the certification in our community was that we made the application for high-speed or for the broadband-ready community, and we did that through our comprehensive plan. But it's that third element that DCA really brings to bear in the requirements that ensure that our community is serious about bringing access for high-speed internet to our residents and businesses. And we worked with a public-private partnership with Spectrum and with a local company out of LaGrange to actually implement our plan locally. Woodbury adopted the model ordinance, and then we went and put it into play. We didn't really sit around and wait for another company to come and do the work for us, because there is 3 options through the ordinance. One, you can wait for a service provider who comes into your community to develop a solution. The city could create a municipal utility and maintain all the equipment and put people to work to bring a internet service provision to bear. But there was a third option that our local community team put together, and that was doing a public-private partnership where we house the equipment here at the City Municipal Complex, and we partner, like I said, with Spectrum and with the company out of LaGrange to manage the access equipment. And we created a wireless internet service provision for our community where we're offering right at 100 megabits per second, both up and down speeds to our community. And we use our water billing system in order to manage the billing process. It's really helped us move our city forward, but it also opened the door for many outside providers, like Amy was just describing, that we've received a lot of phone calls over the last year where people are now interested in coming in and offering high-speed internet to our community.
Thank you so much, Steve. We appreciate it. And next to Adam, Claxton in Evans County is the first multi-jurisdictional community in the state deemed by DCA as ready to bring greater broadband services to your area. Can you first tell us about the unique challenges and experiences involved with having to meet the needs of both the city and the county at the same time? And while you're at it, could you tell us how your team has managed to overcome those obstacles?
Well, thanks for giving me the opportunity to be here with my colleagues and to talk about such an important issue. It's interesting for Claxton and Evans County to be a joint jurisdiction, both to have the broadband designation. But Claxton really and truly is not as limited because of their broadband services. The main reason they applied and wanted to do was to show support as our community as a whole for broadband designation. Once you get outside of the jurisdictional boundaries of the city of Claxton, that's where you really experience the problems of lack of broadband. As we refer to it, we live in a broadband desert. But it has been, we do live in a community that is very cooperative with each other and works together. So as a joint plan and planning group together of the importance of having broadband in our area. How we've met those challenges, our biggest challenge, and when it first started, we all were sitting around the table and trying to decide, how we would tackle this problem. And with local utility companies brought to the table, and finally one partner, Pembroke Advanced Communications, stepped up, took the lead as far as providing our service. And with they've been funded twice through grants through the U.S. Department of Education, U.S. Department of Agriculture, with their Reconnect grants to actually fund that, and have received somewhere a little less than $10 million to bring broadband to our area. Secretary Perdue was in town this past week to give the second. So we're excited. It's really that partnership that's been talked about before, where we're here, the community is excited and looking forward to broadband coming to our community.
Well, thank you. But Adam, we'll stick with you for the next question, which I'll ask everybody. But first, I want to ask you, Adam, what exactly makes this moment in particular so important for broadband in each of your communities?
It's extremely important. And the one thing, as I said before, people are excited, and I think Steve and Amy talked about it as well, is the need that we have, because when you don't have suitable coverage, or you're not you don't receive the coverage that you have, especially in this time of COVID, where our schools now are doing a lot of virtual learning. There are so many students that don't have access to broadband or internet services, and our system has a bus that has internet capacity that travels around our community just to give students access. So just accessibility for students right now is our focus, but you also look at agricultural access, the other things that will bring a big economic impact to our community.
And I'll ask you the same question, Amy. Why is this moment so important?
The pandemic had really shone a light on the inadequacies of our infrastructure, for sure. I mean, we had already fallen behind our suburban and urban neighbors in terms of access, but being forced to work and educate from home really exacerbated the divide. So, I've heard from families, who are struggling with the education, and also from college students who were commuting to Athens or nearby universities, colleges, who were struggling to complete their coursework from home. So those are certainly things that are really concerning and can have a cumulative effect over time. So this moment, if it wasn't important before, it certainly is now. And I was thinking about this in terms of what my kids would say, and they would say, it's just not fair. And that's exactly how it feels. It doesn't feel fair for some communities to have not to have access to something so important to business and education. And we can't leave that many people behind. We need their ideas and their contributions. So getting that deployed and reliable and accessible as soon as possible is even more important than it was a year ago.
And Steve, why is right now so important for the people of Woodbury?
Yeah, I think it's extraordinarily important, not just for Woodbury, but for our entire state. It's tantamount, the internet is tantamount to water access or electricity access, because you've heard it before, it's the education and the work. It's also telemedicine. The healthcare industry is overwhelmed with all of the challenges that we have from COVID walking across our state. And we have a desperate need to ensure that we take care of our healthcare providers, and the telemedicine is one way to do that. But you've got to have access to high-speed internet in order to take advantage of the telemedicine. That's important for us to make sure that we continue our projects to provide access to our communities.
And Steve, I want to stick with you for this next question. What are some words of advice that you have for other communities across Georgia who want to bring broadband services to their area?
Yeah, Marquise, we're extraordinarily proud of the way that our community has pulled together to create this broadband access here in Woodbury, and we're extremely proud of the fact that we received the Broadband Ready certification. During the last 6 months, other communities here in our region have reached out to us to understand how we've been able to implement the high-speed internet, and we do have some suggestions to offer as advice. One of the things that our local team has considered is that we should not reinvent the wheel. We should engage GMA. We should reach out to other communities like Claxton or Oglethorpe County and really engage what they've done to walk this journey. And then we should go out and engage other communities. Go find out what some of our bigger businesses have done in order to achieve the high-speed internet access within their communities. And I'll give an example. I'm going to use you, Amy. Athens is the home of UGA, and how does UGA provide wireless internet service to all of the students that they've got across their campus? And that was one of the examples that Woodbury used in the development of putting our system together. And then the third thing that we would really encourage your community to do is engage the private companies to determine the best path forward. There's a lot of changes in the industry, technology industry right now, that are coming to play. And how are others within our state implementing a service level for their industries, and how can we best take advantage of it from a government perspective? You know, we're not the ones who are out at the tip of the spear to drive change within the industry. There are others who do that very, very well across our state. But it is an opportunity for us as local governments to take advantage of that and reach out and listen to what they have to say, so that we can provide high-speed internet for our communities.
What about you, Adam? What are some suggestions you have for other communities?
Well, Steve did a great job in covering that subject, but I would just offer, I think that if the main theme for me is collaboration and partnership. You're not going to be able to do it by yourself as local government. That needs to be clear. You have to go out and seek those others that can come and help you, whether it's public utility or private companies, whatever it would be. It took a group of leaders in our community to sit around the table with those partners and to really say, what do you bring to the table? And once that was established, that we all agreed to partner with each other, that's when we actually started to plan and knew what we could do to bring those services in. So it's extremely exciting now, when after you think about the planning that went into place, that you can ride around our community and you can see fiber being laid all across Evans County. And the people are really excited. So I think it's teamwork and knowing the benefit of sitting down and working together.
And last but not least, Amy, any other suggestions?
Yes, and I feel like I'm in great company. I'm in a company of doers here, but my advice would be that no one cares more about your community than you do. So help the agencies, you know, state level or federal, help their providers help you by doing the legwork that you can. So educating your local leaders so that they're going to say yes if a vote comes before them. Map out your existing resources, you know, find your water towers, figure out what's going on with emergency services or EMA, so that, you know, your school districts, so you know what their challenges are. You know, lobby your state and national, you know, your reps and say, you know, we need funding for this, or be aware that we've got this problem. Talk to businesses, healthcare providers, all that. Maybe even creating a local stakeholder committee, just so you've got a, you know, sounding board when opportunity comes your way. But until there's really a top-down approach, you know, nationally to solve this problem, like, you know, maybe what we saw with phone service, you know, in the early 20th century, you know, it's really going to be up to each community to be the squeaky wheel. So you're competing for your provider's attention and you're competing for funding. And so, you know, waiting for someone to solve the problem is going to be a long wait. So looking for ways that you can partner, and that you can be prepared when the opportunity arises.
All right, well, that's all the questions that I had. Do any of you have anything left to share?
Marquise, the only thing that I would share after listening to the group is make sure you take advantage of the state resources that we have available for us. In people like Amy Carter or Deanna Perry, Stephen Justice. These guys were just absolutely wonderful and very instrumental to us as Woodbury's community approach this problem. They were very supportive. Their network was absolutely wonderful, and they pointed us in the right direction for many questions that we had along the way. So that would be my parting statement.
Thank you.
I think for me, my parting statement would be just the same thing as, our community, as I've said, and I'm repeating myself, is very excited. And when Amy talked about how important this is, that I thought about Secretary Perdue mentioned in his remarks that this is probably going to have the biggest impact since rural electric power came to communities back many years ago. So when you think about that and the impact that this is going to have on local communities, it's worth getting involved. It's worth the effort. And again, not repeating what's been said earlier, I think our role is just to be that person that helps and supports however we can get this to happen for our communities in Georgia.
And any last words, Amy?
I couldn't have said it better than these two gentlemen, but I really do appreciate the support and the constant cheerleading from the state and from the folks who really get it and are out there, beating the bushes to make it happen. So we appreciate that so much.
All right. Well, Amy, Steve, Adam, thank you all so much. And thank you all so much for watching this edition of DCA Replay. This has been Steve Ledbetter, Mayor of Woodbury, Georgia, Adam Kennedy, Executive Director at Economic Development Authority of Claxton and Evans County, and Amy Stone, Director of Economic Development in Oglethorpe County. Thank you all so much for coming.
Thank you.